Guangzhou, often referred to as China's southern gateway, is now reportedly seeing a significant influx of African migrants. A blogger visited Sanyuanli, the largest African community in Guangzhou, where 90% of traders are African. The blogger remarked that Guangzhou appears to have been taken over by African migrants, as the area is predominantly occupied by them. On January 17th, a blogger posted a video saying, "Guangzhou feels strange. There are young African men everywhere. Is this what globalization looks like?" The African community in Guangzhou, often referred to as Guangzhou's Africans, primarily consists of North African Arabs and Sub-Saharan Africans. Many come from countries like Nigeria, Mali, Guinea, Cameroon, Liberia, and Congo. In the 1990s, the first wave of African migrants began arriving in Guangzhou, initially focusing on trade by exporting Chinese clothing and raw materials to Africa. Over time, the roles diversified, with some engaging in other occupations and even marrying locals.
其实这帮黑哥们儿啊，对于中国的发展
To be honest, these Africans contribute very little to China's economic development. The key is to attract more businesses from Japan, South Korea, Europe, and the US, right? You can't scare them away or drive them out. What's the benefit of only selling a few pairs of slippers or t-shirts? It does almost nothing for China's economy, don't you think? Guangzhou is home to several African communities, with the largest concentration located in Baohan Zejie, often referred to as Little Africa. From 2020 to 2022, the African population in Guangzhou saw a significant decline, but by 2024, their numbers began to rise again. The exact number of Africans currently living in Guangzhou remains unclear, as no official data has been released. Reports circulating online suggest that as many as 350,000 Africans resided in the city in 2018, though this figure has not been officially confirmed. As an international metropolis and a hub for global trade, Guangzhou now faces economic decline. Foreign investments have withdrawn, leaving behind African migrants. The city is marked by widespread closures of physical stores, unemployment, and protests over unpaid wages. As 2025 begins, many Guangzhou-based bloggers are describing the bleak state of the local economy, with industries across the board experiencing stagnation.
广州现在的情况说出来
The current situation in Guangzhou is hard to believe. Many major companies and organizations haven't been able to pay salaries for months. Layoffs are handled chaotically, and those who want to quit are afraid they won't find work elsewhere. If they stay, they can't get paid. Look at those fancy office buildings. They may appear impressive, but many are empty or operating under shared office models. At places like Starbucks or McDonald's, you'll see middle-aged people pretending to work, sitting with a laptop all morning, just passing the day. The real estate sector is even worse. Industry leaders like Red Star Macallan have all gone bankrupt. In the second-hand market, unless you slash prices drastically, no one will pay attention. People who bought overpriced homes are now struggling to make monthly payments, relying on credit cards and online loans to get by. The reality is far from what experts claim, that people are unwilling to spend. The truth is, monthly mortgage payments, living expenses, and fuel costs have already drained both our money and energy. This is life in Guangzhou right now. Everyone is searching for a way out.
太震惊了，广州白云区有个商场。
I was stunned. In Baiyun District in Guangzhou, there's a mall called Jangsha New World. The second floor, filled with restaurants, was completely empty and shut down. I was having a meal on the first floor and went up to the second floor to use the restroom. The moment I stepped up, I felt something was off. There wasn't a single soul in sight. The contrast was striking. The first floor was bustling with noise and laughter, while the second floor was eerily silent and deserted. There used to be a variety of restaurants on the second floor, offering Sichuan, Henan, and Chongqing cuisines, among others. My friend guessed they might have closed due to poor business. If that's true, it's truly heartbreaking. While the exact reason remains unclear, one thing is certain: the current economic climate is tough, and many people are facing hardships, but there's no need to despair. Pick yourself up and start again. Believe in yourself. You've got this. Guangzhou-based Haikan Auto has declared bankruptcy due to financial difficulties, becoming the first electric vehicle company to go in 2025. On January 11th, GAC Group, a shareholder in the company, announced it would take over after-sales services and address employee relocation issues.
Brothers, can you believe it? Another one bites the dust. Horizon Auto has outlasted yet another competitor. The first EV brand to go bankrupt in 2025 has emerged after months of struggling to survive. On January the 10th, Hycan Auto officially declared bankruptcy. Back in February last year, their factory quietly ceased production. By June, large-scale layoffs began, followed by massive store closures in July. By September, they had only managed to sell 170 cars, and now the company has finally collapsed. This comes not long after the downfall of brands like Hi-Fi and WM Motor. Another EV brand has fallen, and it's a reminder for everyone to be cautious when buying cars. The wave of EV bankruptcies in 2025 is only going to accelerate.
A blogger shared that a fellow vendor selling scallion and meat pancakes shut down just 2 days after opening. They remarked that doing business in Guangzhou has become incredibly challenging. Yesterday, I mentioned a fellow vendor selling scallion and meat pancakes who went out of business just 2 days after opening. Their stall wasn't far from mine, and I barely saw anyone buying from them. Selling even 10 pancakes a day seems tough. This year, it's incredibly difficult for physical stores. For example, the Russian goods store at the street corner closed just after 2 months, clearing inventory at a 50% discount. Another shop downstairs from me, selling wool sweaters, shut down on its 7th day. They started with prices around 200 to 300 yuan, then dropped to 135 yuan. Now, after 2 weeks, they're down to 50 yuan per piece, and they'll be gone in 3 days. While market conditions play a role, issues like poor location and unsuitable product choices also matter. Some people just aren't cut out for business. They don't even conduct basic market research. Selling expensive wool sweaters in an old residential area, especially in Guangzhou's hot weather, was doomed to fail. The well-known children's programming education brand, TCTM Kids, has abruptly closed multiple locations in Guangzhou. Parents who attended classes just last week were shocked to find the doors suddenly shut. Employees revealed that while the owner hasn't fled or declared bankruptcy, they are unable to contact management. Many expressed confusion, describing themselves as victims of the situation as well. Meanwhile, a blogger analyzed the reasons behind the widespread closures of physical supermarkets, shedding light on the challenges faced by traditional retail businesses.
大家好啊，我们今天在广州。
Hello everyone. Today, we're at a supermarket in Guangzhou, spanning over 2,000 square meters. It's been open for less than 2 years, and we're here to uncover what's caused such a harsh outcome for its owner. As many of you probably know, nowadays, live streamers can sell thousands of products from countless brands with ease. Meanwhile, physical stores like this one are struggling to survive. It's heartbreaking. Look at these items, being sold off for just 1 or 2 yuan, practically given away. Take this cold storage unit for instance. It originally cost tens of thousands of yuan, but is now being sold for scrap value. The stainless steel equipment here, which the owner spent a fortune on, is being carted away for next to nothing. The entire supermarket was carefully designed and built with significant investment and effort, yet it's all over in less than 2 years. Even the seafood tanks with refrigeration systems, which originally cost thousands, are being sold for as little as 1,000 to 2,000 yuan. These air conditioners, barely used, are being sold off at scrap prices. So who's to blame for this situation? For physical supermarket owners, it seems that their businesses are being crushed under the weight of modern retail trends. Many bloggers have noted that, unlike previous years when various industries were bustling with activity during this time, the energy and vibrancy seem to be completely absent this year.
以前零赏识的时候，
In previous years, on Chinese New Year's Eve, Fangkun Tea Market was packed with people. Now, with just 2 weeks to go before the Chinese New Year, look at this street. There's not a single person in sight. This is the state of the tea market today.
这不是凌晨12点的广州。
This isn't Guangzhou streets at midnight. It's 10 a.m. in Panyu, Guangzhou, and there's no one. The streets are empty, and there are no workers around. With more than 10 days left until Chinese New Year, the streets are already deserted. It's not that we're not working hard on software development or striving in our own ways, but the reality is there's simply no one out there. Some bloggers have remarked that Guangzhou feels empty now, with barely anyone on the streets. The once crowded scenes are long gone. Many factory buildings remain unleased, as large factories have relocated, some to Southeast Asia and others back to their provincial capitals. The pressure in Guangdong is overwhelming, and running a physical store has become increasingly difficult, with many struggling to even cover rent. One blogger concluded, "After the new year, I won't be coming back."
往年年宵花这个时候呢，市场都堵车。
In previous years, the flower markets during Chinese New Year were so busy that traffic would be at a standstill. But now, you can see these stalls are empty. No one wants them anymore, whereas they used to be in high demand. The market is almost deserted, let alone traffic jams. Some stall owners haven't even stocked their goods. Just look, so few people, and another stall sits empty. Business has become incredibly tough. It's really hard to keep going. A Chaozhou native who has lived in Guangzhou for over 10 years also feels that life in the city is becoming increasingly difficult.
今天广州有写字楼发生了5个人。
Today in Guangzhou, there was a shocking incident where 5 people jumped off an office building together to demand unpaid wages. It's said the workers haven't been paid since 2019. What a dire situation as the year ends. As someone who has lived in Guangzhou for 10 years, as a Chaozhou native, I also feel that life here is getting tougher. Many of my friends are complaining that if opportunities existed back in their hometowns, they'd sell their homes and leave immediately. Wages in Guangzhou are stagnant, housing prices are plummeting, and living costs keep rising. Parking for just a day can cost over 100 yuan. A simple meal out is 40 yuan, and even parking during the meal costs the same. Finding a job has become even more disheartening. A friend of mine spent an entire day in Zhejiang New Town looking for an administrative or HR position, but couldn't find anything. Meanwhile, sales and customer service roles are everywhere. Over the past year, China's economy has continued to decline, with the CCP stimulus policies failing to deliver results. Unemployment has surged, consumer spending has weakened, and public confidence in the future has waned. Many people have shared videos online showcasing economic stagnation and the hardships faced in daily life. On January 17, China's National Bureau of Statistics announced a GDP growth rate of 5% for 2024, meeting the government's target. Officials claim that China remains the largest driver of global economic growth. These figures have been met with skepticism and ridicule from the public, with many questioning their accuracy. The Financial Times reported that a DiDi ride-sharing driver in Beijing bluntly remarked, "As an ordinary person, I could say that earning just enough to get by without starving is already good enough. Growth or development? Forget about it." A man running an advertising and design company in Beijing expressed skepticism, saying, "I have no idea where this so-called growth is coming from. The authorities just say whatever they want." He said, "For me, 2024 has been the worst year in over 20 years of running my business." Assistant researcher at the China Center at Oxford University and former UBS chief economist George Magnus told Radio Free Asia that China's official economic data is fiction. He highlighted several reasons for this. First, the CCP's habit of setting unrealistic GDP growth targets that they somehow always manage to achieve. And second, the fact that an economy supposedly growing at 5% shouldn't require massive monetary, financial, housing, and economic stimulus measures, yet such measures have been an annual policy fixture since the COVID-19 pandemic. The US-China trade relationship is overshadowed by escalating tariff tensions. During the US presidential election, Donald Trump repeatedly condemned what he described as unfair trade practices by the CCP, threatening to impose tariffs exceeding 60% on Chinese goods. Since Trump's victory in November 2024, foreign business executives have been actively seeking to shift production out of China. In fact, South Korean companies have announced new investment plans in the US, including building new production facilities or expanding existing ones. At the same time, rising costs and a deteriorating business environment have prompted many South Korean firms to withdraw from China. A joint report by the Korea Institute for Industrial Economics and Trade, the Beijing office of the Korea Chamber of Commerce, and the China-Korea Chamber of Commerce, released in late December 2024, revealed that 4 out of 10 South Korean companies operating in China are considering withdrawing, relocating, or downsizing their operations in the next 5 years. Additionally, 67% of surveyed companies stated that China's business environment is deteriorating. According to Yonhap News, LG Electronics sold its large LCD factory in Guangzhou for approximately 2 trillion won in September 2024, marking South Korean firms' complete exit from the large-size LCD business. Samsung Electronics closed its last smartphone factory in Huizhou, Guangdong, in 2019, relocating its production lines to Vietnam and India. South Korean automakers have followed a similar trend. Hyundai Motor has reduced its 5 production facilities in China to just 2, while Kia Motors has scaled back operations, leaving only 2 of its 3 factories still running. The cosmetics industry has not been spared either, with Amore Pacific's brands, including Etude House and Hera, pulling out of China. Lotte Mart fully exited the Chinese market in 2018, followed by the closure of its department store operations in 2022. Reports indicate that the CCP is increasing restrictions to prevent outflow of personnel and specialized equipment supporting high-tech manufacturing industries in India and Southeast Asia. Apple suppliers such as Foxconn and BYD have reportedly been affected by these measures. On January 17th, Bloomberg reported, citing sources familiar with the matter, that these measures aim to strengthen China's domestic production, minimize potential layoffs, and deter foreign investors from withdrawing amid new U.S. trade restrictions. On January 10th, the U.S. tech outlet Rest of World quoted 5 sources familiar with Foxconn's operations, stating that the company has suspended a new round of deploying Chinese workers to its Indian factories, opting instead to send workers from Taiwan. Sources indicated that the Chinese authorities are the main reason behind the suspension of worker deployments and equipment exports. Foxconn employs hundreds of thousands of workers at its factories in China, playing a critical role in the local electronic supply chain and job market. Sources further revealed that the Chinese authorities are also blocking equipment manufacturers from shipping machinery to Southeast Asian countries, including Vietnam, Malaysia, and Thailand. Official Chinese data shows that from January to December 2024, the actual amount of foreign direct investment used, calculated in yuan, dropped by 27% year-on-year. One person commented, "The yuan has depreciated. If calculated in US dollars, the drop would likely be even greater." Another remarked, "Could this decline be interpreted as capital outflow?" While one quipped, "Guess they're benefiting from their ties with Russia." Nomura Research Institute chief researcher Guangzhou summarized the factors driving foreign capital out of China. The impact of U.S.-China tensions, slowing economic growth, a shrinking working-age population and rising labor costs, stricter safety-related regulations, intensified competition with domestic companies, global supply chain restructuring post-COVID, and rising xenophobia. The latter includes incidents such as the September 2024 fatal attack on a Japanese elementary school student in Shenzhen, followed by a series of attacks on foreigners. China affairs expert Wang He commented that entering 2025, economic uncertainty in China is higher than ever. Foreign direct investment in China is expected to become more cautious, while Chinese outbound direct investment may strengthen. This could lead to a tougher hiring environment for foreign enterprises and exacerbate employment challenges domestically.